G'day, welcome to Nat's Knackers Yard. I'll be Nat, this won't be my Knackers Yard. It won't even be Watford, this will be Bath or Bath. Not quite sure which one it is. I run a bath, but I visited Bath. But yeah, so this is just a work trip. I've been locked away in a very, very sweaty fucking room all day, but I thought I'd grab the bike to do it. 117 miles to go, 2 hours 25 minutes to do it in. Nice. So what's going on? Hope you're well. I thought university towns crack me up. I thought it's worth probably a bit of a mini update on Mike, the XS650 on the project. Now my last upload you would have seen the first attempt at a seat, which was reasonably successful. I got a seat at the end of it. It wasn't the seat that I was really had in my mind. Now if you look at that, the fiberglass seat and the mechanism and everything works perfectly. I'm happy with that. I did query when I was doing it whether or not I had a lip that goes around the edge on both sides. I left it on because obviously it's easier to cut off than it is to glue back on. It's added a lot of bulk, and it's added a lot of bulk because I've used the old cover from the old seat. So I have ordered some bike seat material type vinyl stuff that will be thinner. It won't have that ribbing on it that's added quite so much bulk to it. So it should go a little bit more flush. So it should bring that in a little bit. But you know, I'm all right. My theory worked. My execution wasn't quite there, but my broader scale design worked, and I've ended up with something that does work, so I'm happy with that. What I'm less content with is the matching of my rear matching my rear against my tank. So I've got like the eye drop tank, which I'm not completely convinced it's the original one for that bike. There are two types. There's like the teardrop one and there's the slightly squarer, bulkier one. I like the slightly squarer, bulkier one, and I'll drop a picture down here somewhere. And because of that, because I prefer that slightly squarer, bulkier one, and a couple of people have suggested it on a couple of videos back, saying, oh, why didn't you go for the other tank? I found one at a reasonable price. It needs repair, or it needs sorting, this, that and the other, but I was looking at, you know, you get ones that are ready to go, i.e., you know, either just clip on or spray up and clip on, and you're talking 250 quid, you know, that sort of thing, and I'm not paying that, so I've managed to get one for considerably fucking cheaper than that. Come on, people, I want to get home. Yeah, I've got one for considerably cheaper than that. Do a bit of London riding here, shall we? Yeah, so that's coming, I reckon, next day arrival. Hello, I love university towns. Next day arrival. So I think what I'll do is probably delay putting this out, and I'll drop in a bit of video here of what it looks like. Right, so it's the day after and I filmed the last bit, and I'll drop you back into the day. Proof of life from the dog. Hi buddy. I'm back from work. It is 7 o'clock. Got a parcel. Super quick service this was. Yeah, 24-hour post. That doesn't happen often. This is why I don't do unboxing videos, because it's really hard with one hand, and you always look, sorry mate, bumped you in the face with a cardboard box. Because it's really hard with one hand without looking like a complete spanner. So through these guys, I've actually got quite a fair amount from these as a salvage group. Let me just grab terrible camera. Apologies, I need to get out. There we go. So that's the profile. It's going to be fun to try and jab that on. Got some schmeg in the tank, but nothing that isn't sourceable, I don't think. But it's that big boxier square look. Let me just put that there. Look after that dog. Yeah, it's just bulkier. It's just bulkier. It's going to work better, I think. I've just got to sort the bugger out first. Right, let's get you back to the action. Okay, back in, and yeah, that's what it looks like. I can't remember. I haven't done it yet. Oh, I'm confused by all my tenses. I don't know if I'm going to chuck that on the bike for a review, or whether or not I'm going to have time, or whether or not it's just going to be, you know, probably, frankly, just a quick look in the kitchen. But I've now got to work out how that interacts with my seat. I've just been in a meeting with a load of Australians and Kiwis and people from all over the world. It's ruined my accent for the day. I need to see how that interacts with my seat unit, because that seat unit, the current one, is designed to sit over the top of the base of the tank where it meets the seat. I think the one that I've got has been slightly abused and cut, and it needed like pinching into place. So so I've done that to square it away a little bit. So I need to work out how those two interact with each other. My big concern, if you look at it from the side, was the line from the bottom of the tank then didn't quite match. It never did actually. That tank dips down too far, and it kind of had like a bit of a V in the actual setup, and I wasn't a fan. So yeah, I'm going to have a look at that. I'll see what condition that tank's in. It's going to need cleaning out on the inside, like I did on the other one, but I've seen a few uploads on rust removal through electrolysis that I want to give a go. Tempting fate, it looks quite simple. There's always a danger in statements like that, but actually more importantly I think it looks quite thorough. It looks like a good way of doing it. I also need to look into ways of stopping the immediate flash rust directly afterwards. So any top tips that you've got, people, because the existing like teardrop tank, I got rid of a load of the rust. Thought I'd dried it out, thought I'd oiled it a bit, and it just fucking died. It just rusted straight up on the inside. So made it almost a pointless exercise. It wasn't a pointless exercise, it was better than was, but it's still not as good as I'd want it. And I don't think I ever actually filmed it. I did try putting a very basic fuel filter in between the tank and the carb, and there really isn't a great deal of space to try and achieve that, and it didn't really work. So I might have to rethink how I'm going to do that, but obviously ideally I wouldn't want to put a filter in, but if I've still got schmeg in the tank. So yeah, so new tank, new slightly boxier design, which I think is going to suit it better. New laminate, well, not laminate, what's the word I'm looking for, vinyl for the seat on its way. I'm going to try two things. I think I might try just with, you know, a couple of staples and a smile with the seat base as it is, i.e. with the lip that goes around the seat, the fiberglass lip that goes around the seat. I might try it with just that thinner stuff, see how it works, if indeed it does. Failing that, I'm going to cut that fiberglass back so it's flush with the edges, which frankly I think is going to look better. It'll make the seat sit on it rather than around it, and it might help that profile a little bit. Well, that's the plan. Cool. So what, overall, I have seen one comment on there saying, you know, I hope you got the bike for cheap because that's costing money to do this, 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 and this. yeah, that's kind of the point, you know. I haven't used the word rescue in my titling because there's already a motorcycle rescuer, and that's Charlie, but this is really rescuing a bike that's destined to just sit there and rust further otherwise, and I just want to make something quite cool, that's going to be enjoyed for a bit longer. Now, with the limitations that we have in and around London, it really needs to be ULEZ ultra low emission zone compliant to really have a future at the moment. So if you're looking at bike prices at the moment, now we've got another cold snap coming which isn't helping, but you know, we're starting to hit spring. The bike market is starting to become a little bit more buoyant, to the point where if I put Tango back on the market, I'm getting slightly messed around by the buyer, who himself is getting messed around, so I'm keeping it for a little bit longer for him. Failing that, I just, you know, he'll lose his deposit and I'll sell it on. But the bike market's becoming a bit more buoyant. Now, the really interesting thing that I'm seeing this time round is essentially any 90s bike just isn't selling. You're seeing some fucking amazing, beautifully looked after bikes, you know, mid-90s, early 90s bikes, and they're being sold for a pittance, and they're not selling. And the reason they're not selling is if you can't get it ULEZ compliant, you've lost London, Greater London, as a market, and that's a fair chunk. You know, when you live in the burbs like me, just outside of the proposed ULEZ expansion zone, that's, you know, I'm in Watford, which is, you know, up here, if that's Greater London, or just outside of Watford, but you know, that is all, you know, down and right. That is all south, southeast and east, gone from the marketplace, gone, because nobody is going to buy that bike, because it's going to cost them £12.50 each day they want to use it, which is just mental. It just means there are so many beautiful bikes. I tell you what, if you're not in an ULEZ zone, you know, if you're Bath's a bad example, because I think the centre of Bath has got a clean air zone where they're charging people to come in, but you know, if you're in an area that doesn't have them, expand your shopping areas to sort of London and the surrounding areas, because you can get some frankly fucking amazing, you know, very cool 90s bikes for a pittance, and you've got all of the bargaining power as well as a buyer, all of the bargaining power. On the ULEZ expansion, it's due to happen, I think, August, September. Really little notice on this one. It went to a public consultation that the numbers were definitely played with and abused slightly. That's public record, that's not just me having a go at Sadiq Khan, although he deserves it. There's all sorts of exposés. My YouTube keeps showing me the Greater London Conservatives and the Greater London Association interviews and cross questions with the Lord Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Lots of very difficult questions like, you know, when did you actually know how the consultation was going? Sadiq Khan maintaining that he didn't know until the results were in, and yet all of his senior staff were getting blow by blow, week by week updates, even to the point they put in a social media plan to try and get more young people voting, because they were more likely to vote in approval for it. So yeah, all very dodge. And the massive expose, which makes complete sense when you think about it, was the fact that the cameras for the ULEZ zone were put on order before the consultation had started, let alone finished, which is fucking shocking. However, all of that is immaterial, because what it really shows is the fact that increasing the ULEZ zone is just a stepping stone towards pay per mile motoring within and around London, which is the next step. ULEZ makes money to start with, but that money decreases over the years as the older cars slowly die out, or indeed people eventually swap out, replace them, or go bankrupt and have to sell their new car because they couldn't afford to get one in the first place that was ULEZ compliant or electric, etc. So ULEZ is dwindling dividends back. what it's likely to be, and there is apparently, I think, a consultation out on it as well, a move towards pay-per-mile motoring in London, which weirdly enough will use the same cameras that they've bought for ULEZ in London. Now, on the outside level, you look at that and think, well, pay-per-mile, I might actually save money, I don't actually drive that much. But it's the how that gets me. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm not a pinko liberal, I'm not, you know, I sound like I should be wearing a tinfoil hat, but the mechanism that, by which you do pay per mile means that you, the motorist, will have to inform like an app, like the TfL Travel app or like Google Maps, say where you want it beforehand. It doesn't say how long beforehand, but beforehand say I want to move from my house to Tesco's. The app will then give you some possible ways of achieving your house to Tesco's and back, everything from walking, cycling, difficult with shopping, driving, buses, trains, planes, automobiles, etc. And then we'll present you the cost option against each one. So that means that you therefore legally bound to inform the government / Big Brother, whatever you want to call it, to inform the Lord Mayor of London where you want to go and when. Now, to me, that isn't freedom of movement. That is invasion of privacy. Not that, you know, I'm spending every other weekend with my other family. And I'm going to have to book that, and it's going to have to be, you know, recorded somewhere. Not that I'm doing anything dodgy at all, but the whole process of informing before you make any journey, so that you can be charged according to the method you choose of doing it, is just as dodgy as you fucking like. Not that I particularly speed either, but theoretically, it also means that the second you go over the speed limit, your progress and your route is being monitored to make sure that you do the same route that you booked. It also means that, at least theoretically, every time you dip over the speed limit, you're being tracked. Points and a fine? No idea. Absolutely no idea. So yeah, welcome to a dystopian future, people. This is the sort of stuff that when we were at school we read about in 1984, and when we watched every dystopian film, a lot of which were done in the 90s as well. It all looked remarkably like this as well. Frankly, fucking terrifying. But yeah. Anyway, that's a nice fucking glorious way of finishing an upload, and a nice, on a downer. I hadn't intended to go down that little particular rabbit hole, or cul-de-sac of a rabbit hole, but yeah, it's playing on my mind at the moment. I don't like it. I'm not sure what I can do about it, if anything, and it's that fundamental lack of empowerment that I find really, really worrying. But we'll see. Right, I'm going to enjoy these John Denvers, these country roads. Don't often get a chance to do that, so I'm going to stop talking arse. I might even upload some footage of it, but I've got over 2 hours worth of riding to do. It ain't all going to be like this. Most of it's going to be fucking boring on motorways, so I'm going to enjoy it while I can. Cheers all, I'll catch you later. Ta-da. Oh, and while I remember it, jump you back in, these wind deflectors that I've got on my bars that look frankly fucking awful are brilliant. My hands were toasty this morning, and it was quite nippy, but the wind chill that it keeps off your hands is worth the minus points on street creds that you get for having them on a bike. It's fucking brilliant. Not quite as many minuses as having mitts would have, because that looks fucking stupid, but it's probably even toastier. Right, no more talking bollocks. I'll catch you later. Ta-da.